So welcome to the Facilities Master Plan Breakout Session. We are fortunate here to have you today. I see a lot of familiar faces in the room. I think I know almost all of you.
Just show of hands, how many faculty do we have with us today? Awesome. And staff. Thank you.
Oh.
And friends.
See where the interest lies. So for those of you that do not know me, my name is Russ Klein. I'm the Director of Physical Plant and Emergency Management. I have been spent about 20 years in facilities and project management. I do have a passion for strategic planning and capital planning. Outside of St. Ben's and St. John's, I've worked in the healthcare industry, leading teams, private equity, energy, finance, and insurance, and sports venues. So have a lot of history with capital planning. And I'm a sucker for innovation and continuous improvement. That's where I thrive. I absolutely love it. So again, very excited to be here today. Thank you.
And those of you who don't know me, I'm Briana Wentland, recently appointed as the CSB controller. Also working as the director of facilities and have my wonderful counterpart here with me today. I've been at St. Ben's for about 11 years, 3 years in facilities. I like to think of myself as a people-centered leader. I am a critical thinker and I love process improvement.
Awesome. Okay, so we have some goals or some learning outcomes today. I'm sure everybody is coming to this meeting, everybody's hoping to get something out of this, right? The first one, we're going to be able to answer this question. What is a facilities master plan and why is it important to St. Ben's and St. John's?
We're also going to discuss how does our approach differ from a traditional facilities master plan.
Then we're going to get into what has been completed so far.
And what are the next steps that we're going to take after this?
Any questions on this, on what to expect throughout the day? Just overall, this is gonna, we're not unveiling projects, nothing like that. This is the intended outcome. We're building a roller coaster.
I think the doors are still open if you are holding something different.
Yeah, a lazy river.
So this presentation has some ground rules. I was going to add a few more once I saw who was showing up today, but we're going to go with this. So our presentation is interactive, so feel free to participate, especially when asked.
I don't think we're going to have any problems with this group right now. But every question is valuable and worth asking, so certainly something's on your mind.
If you don't understand something, someone next to you might not either, so please ask the questions.
And then finally, we're going to pause frequently for questions. Please, we thrive on the interaction, so if you have something, please stop and ask us. Just raise your hand. Bob?
I don't have any questions.
Oh, I'm just checking.
Thanks for asking. No.
We're starting right away with an audience question. So who in this room can tell us what a facilities master plan is?
So before we get there, we thought this was going to be a lot more dramatic. We thought there was going to be hundreds of people in here. But anyway, the question still holds, right? So how do you define a facilities master plan? Anybody?
I assume it's the plan and strategy for all of the facilities on both campuses and how they will be maintained and or renewed.
What the heck? It's like perfect.
I'm a plant.
Anybody else have any idea how you define it? Margaret?
With 3 young kids, I'm thinking about just like building blocks, right? You have these pieces. How do you best utilize what you have? What can you build in a new way? Or what parts do you still need?
Sure, perfect. So I think it's important before we go on, we want to define, how do others define a traditional facilities master plan? So notice the word traditional here. So the first one is a planning document that guides the community's overall character, physical form, growth, and development. It seems to make sense, right? In alignment with what you said.
A traditional facilities master plan describes how, why, where, and when to build and renovate.
Again, seems like it makes sense. It describes where, how, and at what pace an organization desires to develop physically, economically, and socially. Not sure about that one, but
Traditional facilities master plans have about a 20 to 30 year horizon outlook.
and at many organizations, and I can attest to this, many of the priorities are just handed down from leadership, right? From the president, the chief executive officer, maybe the board of trustees. It's not really a grassroots thing. It's kind of handed down. These are the priorities. Briana.
Yep. So traditional facilities plans have limitations. While effective in the past, a traditional facilities master plan is increasingly unable to meet the dynamic demands of today's rapidly changing educational and operational environments. These plans often lack the flexibility needed to adapt to evolving technologies, contemporary pedagogies, shifting student expectations, and growing emphasis on sustainability and resource optimization. They tend to be static, focusing on long-term projections based on current conditions, which can quickly become outdated as we face new challenges and opportunities. Additionally, traditional plans may not fully integrate data-driven insights or align closely with strategic directions, leading to missed opportunities for enhancing student experiences and operational efficiencies. In an era where agility and responsiveness are paramount, a more adaptive approach to facilities planning is required. One that continuously advances the institutional KPIs, leverages real-time data, and incorporates innovative solutions to future-proof campuses.
So if we know that a traditional facilities master plan, again, like the Breuer master plan, the O'Meara master plan, St. Ben's master plan, if we know a lot of those have been traditionally, they're very inflexible, they become outdated quickly, there potentially is an opportunity for some strategic misalignment, and one that lacks agility. So we put on here a bullet point. Fortunately, what we are doing is anything but traditional. So then the question comes up, you're probably all asking, what exactly are we doing if we're not doing a traditional facilities management? Right? So what we're doing is we are crafting a capital improvement framework that for the first time harmonizes the needs of our two institutions into a unified plan. This approach respects each institution's unique identities and creates synergies that align with the strategic directions. Our efforts transcend traditional planning by leveraging data to anticipate future challenges and opportunities, ensuring adaptability in a rapidly evolving environment. At its core, our master plan is a living document that can constantly evolve to reflect new insights and trends. Our framework is driving transformative change and setting a new standard for excellence in master planning. So we are promoting the use of radical innovation and continuous improvement to differentiate ourselves from our peers. That's important. That's what we're all about, is differentiation. Rather than planning for 20-year increments, we are planning for the highest impact projects that support the strategic plan. Our facilities will become one of the most resourceful tools in supporting the innovative needs of the people that chose St. Ben's and St. John's. Like everything, we naturally need to work within financial boundaries and limitations, right? Our process allows us to maximize resources by producing capital recommendations that have the most impact on the institutional key performance indicators. So our task with Briana and I I saw Derek in here and a few others that have participated. Really, our task is to create framework, create runway that allows everyone to embrace it, right? And we understand that the key to accepting the recommendations or the outcomes, it lies in the process. If we don't trust in what we're doing, if Briana and I, an associate team, if we can't, if we haven't earned your trust in the process, the games we've lost. So, is there any questions on this? Kind of what? I think this is some good foundational stuff here. Margaret.
You say it's a data-driven framework. Like, what data are you relying on?
Okay, we're gonna get. I'm glad you asked that.
Okay.
But yes, we've gone through a discovery phase that we're going to talk through. But yeah, there's been a lot of data collected. So hold that thought for 1 second.
At St. John's, we talked a lot about the design committee. You know, in previous years, you don't hear about that as much anymore. Are you going to touch on that and how that kind of interfaces with what you guys are doing, or is that kind of gone away?
No, the design committee is alive and well
Yeah.
at St. John's.
Just at St. John's.
So no, the process of the design committee, but that's more when we get to like a project-specific recommendation, we would go and we would integrate and we would look at specific architectural elements. I mean, Derek, you're on the design committee, you can attest to this, but we're a long ways away from bringing anything to the design committee. Now we're really kind of focused on identifying the needs that are going to support the institutional key performance indicators. So, good question though. I kind of figured that one would come up. So.
All right, research shows that 60% of you are visual learners. This inverted pyramid represents the facilities master plan process we're sharing with you today. We'll dig deeper into each area together over the next 30 minutes. Starting with the discovery phase, we cover our colleagues' work in collecting data and compiling deliverables to kick off the facilities master plan process that Russ just alluded to. Next, we'll dive into the planning phase where the collected data was analyzed, themes surfaced, and an initial survey started the process of bringing project ideas forward. Finally, we'll review the development of business cases for the projects that will surface as the highest institutional priorities. Russ already asked if there were questions, so if we don't have any more questions, we'll keep moving.
I think this is going to make a lot more sense, but again, Briana alluded to, a lot of us are visual learners, right? So it's kind of nice to see this inverted funnel, but that's really what we're doing. We're taking all of this data and we're going to focus it down to something that's actionable. And we're going to talk through this throughout the presentation here. Any questions? Does it seem relatively straightforward? Paul, it looked like I lost you there. Yeah. So the question becomes, so what has been done so far? What's been done to date? So we started in a phase known as discovery. So many of you in this room, or some of you in this room, have participated. So this effort was led by a multidisciplinary team of 10 steering committee members, including 2 from St. John's, 1 from St. Ben's, and 7 joint college and university employees. Additionally, approximately 140 campus students, faculty, staff, and monastics contributed to the project. By the end of April, the team had spent, right here, 3,660 hours kind of working on the discovery. And really, it was trying to understand our institution's aspirational goals and how we could support them, how our buildings could support those. I do want to acknowledge that, you know, the 140 or so people that worked on the data collection, there was a lot more people that actually did work on it as well. So it does extend beyond this.
So next, we're going to talk about how the data was gathered. 14 subcommittees were convened in early February to start gathering data. It's the 140 people that Russ mentioned, plus. Their task was not only to synthesize and make recommendations, but to collect raw data, assess internal capabilities, analyze the external environment, and envision an aspirational state of operations. They were then asked to compile this data, write an executive summary assessing how our facilities support or impede our progress. This work was anchored in the strategic directions of enhancing the student experience, achieving financial and operational excellence, and maintaining mission-centered practices. And if any of you are counting, there's more than 14 boxes on the slide. Russ is going to tell us why.
So yeah, so we did break out the one component that we did not tackle yet was the financial wing, or the financial lens of this. So the asset protection planning and the funding strategy, that's going to be addressed in kind of the last part of the business case development. So that was intentionally left out. So there's, again, 14 groups that kind of analyze these different categories. And I can already see there's going to be a ton of questions on this, but we want you to see the framework, and we'll get into a little bit more of this here shortly. Jean, I can see your...
It's environment in purple, right?
Yeah.
What's the purple one say?
Environment, or enrollment. Enrollment.
Okay.
So this was a starting, yeah, and
That was it.
the lighting is not, I guess I can't even see it on my computer either. But, so the discovery phase deliverables. So this is what, you know, Margaret, we talked through you asked about the data collection, what went into it. Again, this is not a one and done process. This is going to be something that's ever evolving. But the first the first group, we were asked, everybody had to collect raw data, space utilization rates, academic usage, classroom usage data, a lot of qualitative feedback we were looking for, and then quantitative data as well. Our big thing is that our facilities are going to support our aspirational goals. So we asked all the committee members to look through the lens of unique differentiation. So we asked these questions: what does an industry-leading student experience look like? What defines an industry-leading residential experience? And how do cutting-edge organizations navigate the complexities of streamlined operations and financial modeling? Now that takes a lot, right? There's a lot of words there. But again, that was the focus. So we didn't just want to throw darts at the wall. We needed qualified data to work from. For those who were involved, I guess this wasn't true for all of the committees, but many of us performed an operational start-stop exercise where we looked at what are the things that we should be doing and what are the things that we're doing that absolutely don't make any sense, because that also drives space usage, right? It drives facility demands, it drives all of these things. So as you can see, all of this stuff starts to roll into the broader strategic initiatives as well. And then most importantly, we looked at the internal environment, looking at our strengths and weaknesses. We did an external environmental analysis of the, again, each group had a different lens they were looking at. And then finally, we asked the groups to look at their internal resources and capabilities. We know that just because we know where we want to go, we need to make sure that we have the resources to get there. And what does that look like? Does that mean more space? Does that mean, what does that mean in regard to facility planning? Is there any questions kind of, oh, I'm sorry, an executive summary as well. So we asked each steering committee to kind of roll all this stuff and produce this summary.
This is me. So, Russ, I'm curious how we can develop a facilities master plan when there's so much yet to be discovered. The answer lies in nimbleness and agility. We're doing something others are not, building a framework that can produce results based on the area of highest impact at any moment in time. This process is intended to be iterative and capable of accepting new inputs at any time. It must be acknowledged that our first delivery has inputs with incomplete data sets. However, this data will always be incomplete because our environments are constantly changing.
So I think we're going to get into this. So this first go around, we know that there's a lot of information that's missing, right? There's a lot of inputs that have not been discovered. And what we're doing here, this is a living, breathing document. We're going to go through this exercise continually. We're going to go through this again. Next year, we're going to have a whole plethora of additional information, right? Many of you probably have not been engaged. You will be engaged, right? There's going to be consultant insights from art and science. Who's all heard of that group, right? So basically looking at the top of the funnel, why do students not choose St. Ben's and St. John's? That's valuable insight that's going to feed into the facilities master plan, things that we need to know. These are all the different strategic initiatives as well. Everything's tied together. We're going to be taking the information and the executive summaries and all the data that's generated throughout all of these, and that's going to tie into what we're doing. We are going to be working on a St. Ben's Facilities Condition Index. That's going to be forthcoming in the next year. And then finally, a campus accessibility audit for both campuses, for both St. Ben's and St. John's. It's important to note, again, there's a lot of stuff that's forthcoming. We don't have this information right now. We're going through the exercise of producing some recommendations based on what we know today. What we know today could be very different from what we know 6 months from now. But that's the beauty of the process, is that it's ever evolving, right?
I think at this point, perfect. We're going to stop and ask questions.
So on the previous slide, one of the first bullet points was about space utilization rates. How do you figure that? What's the algorithm for that?
So for the academic classroom spaces, that was easy. Derek worked with the registrar. I shouldn't say easy. It was easy for me to read because Derek and the team did such a But I'll be honest with you, when it comes to like you know, residential spaces and programmable spaces. Who asked that question? I'm sorry, I couldn't.
So like the space you're in right now?
Yep. So this one, actually, we would probably have some data on basically how this space is used, which is probably not used very often, to be honest with you.
Right, so we're using EMS, the system that books spaces, and I would say some areas are better at using that tool than others, so we can only get what's inputted to that tool. As far as residential spaces go, the occupancy rates have been kept, at least at St. Ben's for a while. I know that St. John's also has that, so we know how many people could live in a building, how many people do live in a building, and we have that per semester.
The hardest, the most difficult thing to analyze, again, is the programming. And that is one of the challenges that we've identified, and we're actually working towards a solution, that we need a legitimate space management software that we can catalog spaces, we can identify who is in these areas, what's the condition of the space. That's going to allow us to rise to the next level. So full transparency, we don't have everything we need right now, but this is a work in progress. But that's an awesome question. I love that.
Can I have a follow-up, small follow-up?
Yeah.
So is it a numbers-based piece? And why I'm asking is there so like a space like this that doesn't get used often, but is the only space that this smaller group of people can use to achieve a particular goal? Is there some kind of a formula for importance of the space as not just, is it, not just numbers?
That would be kind of the next hierarchy of need. To basically, that would be part of the matrix for sure. The reality is, between St. Ben's and St. John's, we have a lot of square footage.
Yes.
We have a lot of square footage, and we have a lot of spaces that really aren't used as often as what we would think.
Russ, I can just add briefly, Carol, I co-chair both the academic and the student programming space committees, and we did collect a lot of qualitative data from surveys and focus groups. So while we do have classroom data, anything that's booked, we have that in a spreadsheet, so there's quantitative data. The qualitative data came from interviews, focus groups, and the surveys, so we will specifically get someone saying, this closet is vitally important to the function of what we do, please don't take our closet away. So that kind of stuff's in there too.
Yeah, and I'm thinking of some other local institutions who are destroying buildings.
Yes.
And not thinking about that there's not going to be a space that's
Yes.
appropriate for the people who are getting shoved out of those.
And I don't think they would do this.
Yeah, and that's
No,
why
I don't think you would do that, but I also want to understand.
we're very methodical about embracing our Benedictine values of stewardship and taking care of what we have. But we need to make sure that we understand and catalog, we know what spaces we have so that we can renovate them so that they can rise to the highest need. Full transparency, we're just not quite there yet. So, but yeah, hopefully I answered the question.
No, thank you. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay. So we kicked off the planning phase, came after discovery, right? So we kicked this off on May 15th. So in May, a smaller group of institutional thinkers was assembled and asked to join the planning team. The most innovative part of the facilities master plan is the capital process that we are creating, like we alluded to earlier. We synthesized 357 pages of qualitative and quantitative data to develop 6 distinct themes. So we're going to get into the themes here shortly. All the themes support the student experience, mission-centered practice, and financial and operational excellence. These themes, it's important, should be viewed as that if we improve in these areas, we would yield enhanced institutional outcomes. So it's important that we make the connection there. The goal of the planning phase is to prioritize the data coming into the funnel and turn it into actionable capital recommendations. Sorry, I forgot to pan ahead with some of these. And then the last one, we're going to wrap up with the project-specific business case. We're going to talk through that in a little bit more depth on one of the last slides here. So there is a little quick disclaimer that I just want to talk through and get some feedback here. So who here has heard of a VUCA environment? That's an acronym. Is anybody? Nobody here? Okay, Chad, come on, help me out here.
Variable unified.
No, I don't know. So VUCA stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, right? And this, I'm going somewhere with this, so just bear with me for a second. So there's a quote here by Bill Gates, and this one kind of resonated with Briana and Abby chose this one. So we all always overestimate the change that will need to occur in the next 2 years and underestimate the change that will occur in the next 10. Don't let yourself be lulled into inaction. So when you take that acronym up top, when I talk about volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, think about the context of that with that quote. What do you think that means for our work in facilities master planning? There's no right or wrong answer. I'm looking for a little feedback here.
Student enrollment.
Okay.
Things will take longer than we anticipate or want, but it will be needed change over time.
Yeah.
Guessing supply chain is a problem, right?
So where I'm going with this is what you're about to hear. We're going into the 6th data-driven themes, and we do a lot of things amazingly well at St. Vincent and St. John's, things that we should be screaming to the top of our lungs, that just celebrating. You know, we do some pretty awesome things here. That is not the focus of the facilities master planning team. We're not here to, revel in victories. It's our job to be critical of our institutions and what we're doing, because when we're critical, we can highlight the things that we need to do better. If we're satisfied with the status quo, we're not moving the needle. We're not pushing us to new boundaries. So so as we get into these themes, if they seem like, hey, we're being a little critical here, that's intentional, right? We're trying to focus on the things that we need to improve.
All right, theme number 1, the reason why we're here, student success. The data highlights vital areas for space improvement, such as residence halls and academic spaces. Surveys and performance metrics reveal that outdated facilities hinder the student experience and learning outcomes. For instance, many residence halls lack necessary modern amenities and study environments that affect students' ability to thrive academically and socially. Similarly, academic spaces are often poorly equipped and not adaptable to contemporary teaching methods, which impedes effective learning and collaboration. I think we heard a lot about that as we were collecting data. This data also indicated that our campuses would benefit from appropriately designated spaces for student activities and engagement.
Did we pull everybody? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. Go ahead.
Did we pull everybody along? Did I lose anybody when we started talking about themes here?
So we're
I just want to make sure, because we're going to talk through 6 of these things here.
And you're going to hear me for 4, sorry.
Yeah. So the themes, again, this isn't something that the facilities master planning team dreamt up. This was all the data that was collected, the thousands of data points, all of the qualitative feedback, students, faculty groups, staff. Again, I know it's only one group right now, and there's more to do, but this was the feedback that was generated by reading all of those pages. This was the feedback, and some of it's a little bit critical and hard to hear, but this was one theme.
Yeah, and I think within these themes, you'll pull themes through them that all kind of align and match. And I think one thing that maybe we didn't mention was the sheer amount of information that this group took in. It was like 374 pages. Was that what we read? It was a lot. So we were reading through all of that and really coming together and trying to pull all of these themes and find where they align. So the last piece that I didn't cover yet was the best practices. They emphasize the importance of diverse, inclusive, and versatile environments that cater to various student needs, such as study areas, recreational facilities, and social lounges. These spaces should be adaptable to support both individual and group activities, providing students with flexibility to collaborate, relax, or focus on their studies. The next area will be campus wayfinding and visitor experience. Again, we have a need for improvement. The data highlights that campus gateways and wayfinding need improvement. Primarily,
this is both campuses. This isn't just
Yep.
St. Ben's or St. John's. This is holistically.
yes.
We're talking about both St. Ben's and St. John's here.
So there's an inability for anyone visiting to find the sense of place here. They have confusion that it causes for visitors when they come, and it lacks overall excitement. Observational findings and observational studies reveal that the current gateways in circulation don't always create memorable first impressions, often leaving our visitors disoriented and underwhelmed. The absence of distinctive, welcoming entry points contributes to the sense of disconnection and fails to showcase the unique identity and vibrancy of the campuses. The sentiments are evident in the feedback from prospective students and visitors who report difficulties navigating our campuses, St. Ben's doesn't have any addresses, and lack of engagement upon arrival. Sorry, I'm taking digs at myself today. Enhancing the campus gateways are crucial for fostering more inviting and cohesive campus environment that reflects the institution's character and appeals to all who enter.
What do you mean by a gateway?
Like, think of if you're coming, for St. Ben's, if you're coming in the north or south entrance, it's kind of like some campuses have like a big banner over or some sort of arch that says, you're here, you're at St. Ben's. When you drive in, just to pick on St. Ben's, you don't really see that. If you miss the sign and you drive in, you might not know that you're here. You don't see a lot of red, you don't see signature, icons that tell you I'm at St. Ben's. If you've never been here before, you might miss it.
These aren't just, I just want to reiterate, this isn't Briana and Russ, these aren't our, this is data that's been synthesized from user groups and students. This is their feedback, and I'll be honest with you, this is really hard for Briana and I because this is the stuff that we oversee, right?
For work.
Like we beautify campus, the visitor experience, this is where we live, right? I mean, this is, so I mean, we definitely know that there is a need for improvement if we're going to widen the funnel and advance the institutional key performance indicators, so.
And I would add, when you see it every day, you don't think of it that way. It's a little bit eye-opening to hear this.
It's you.
This is still me. Sorry. All right, we're going to talk next about theme number 3, CSB and SJU brand identity. How does our physical brand identity help deliver on our brand promise? So brand equity, comprised of loyalty, awareness, and association, is necessary for creating a competitive advantage in a hyper-competitive higher education market. The data indicates that brand identity is not present enough, primarily due to not outwardly expressing a sense of place again, and the built environment's inability to reflect a cohesive college campuses. So meaning when you come from St. Ben's to St. John's, you don't really know necessarily that we're connected in any way. Surveys and focus groups reveal that students and staff and visitors often feel disconnected from the overall identity because of inconsistent architectural styles and a fragmented layout. The buildings and spaces lack thematic elements, making it challenging for individuals to associate them with a single unified brand. This undermines our ability to convey a strong, recognizable brand, resulting in a less impactful and engaging environment. A cohesive, well-designed campus is essential for reinforcing brand identity and fostering a sense of belonging and pride among all community members.
Theme number 4, again, data-driven, data-informed, is facility utilization and operations. So the data highlights trends in our optimization of space and their sparse usage, to Derek's point when he brought up, pointing to less than effective pairing of departments and clusters that would facilitate intuitive student interactions. A lot of our campus layouts often scatter student-centered services across distant locations. Things aren't paired very well together. Sometimes that does create barriers for students who need to access multiple services at one time. The spatial disorganization leads to frustration and decreased productivity as students must navigate the campus extensively to fulfill their needs. We miss opportunities to enhance student convenience and engagement by not clustering departments and services, which are critical for fostering a supportive academic environment. Additionally, operational resiliency through the lens of infrastructure delivery, Jeff, you were the one who helped on this one as well, and sustainability is vital to thriving, we know that, right? Data suggests that our most acute enterprise risk we face is within our aging infrastructure. That's right across the board for St. Ben's and St. John's. There's a significant concern that regulatory compliance related to energy code and the International Green Code Council will outpace our ability to adapt. Qualitative feedback suggests that our spaces are not flexible enough to support the rapid response to institutional threats and opportunities. Theme number 5, so this is actually a strategic initiative in and of itself, but it radiated through into the work of the facilities master plan. Did I go the wrong way? So theme number 5 was employee engagement and satisfaction. So within the context of the strategic directions, our approach to nimble master planning embraces a multi-capital approach. I'm sure many of you have heard of that. In a boiled down version, we hold people, the planet, and financial favor in equal weight. This theme embraces the notion that employees are our #1 asset. So the data indicates that our spaces do not effectively promote employee engagement and satisfaction due to several critical challenges. The lack of thermal comfort within our workspaces makes it challenging for employees to maintain focus and productivity throughout the day. Insufficient natural views and lighting conditions also contribute to an uninspiring and sometimes stressful work environment. Can anybody relate to that?
I relate to the
Two?
deep one. New science was like a boiler all summer long.
Our facilities are not equipped with the latest technology. I mean, I think we have technology, but that does hamper efficiency and the ability to perform tasks, whether that's, again, embracing contemporary pedagogies, whatever that need may be. We're behind the times when it comes to technology. So these factors collectively create a work setting that does not fully support our employees' well-being and professional fulfillment, ultimately impacting overall employee engagement and satisfaction. It's the last theme here.
Last theme. All right, exciting and purposeful spaces. The data reveals that our spaces fall short of supporting exciting, creative, and purposeful environments. A significant factor is limited opportunity to connect with the outdoors, which stifles the potential for inspiring interactions. Furthermore, the absence of a defined student or welcome center fails to anchor students on campus, reducing their sense of belonging. We have to acknowledge that we must acknowledge the impact on our community. There is a notable lack of spaces for employee and student interactions, crucial to fostering collaboration, innovation, and a vibrant campus culture. These factors hinder our ability to create an engaging and stimulating atmosphere that encourages purposeful connections and activities. There's a need for improvement here. Enhancing spaces to support creativity, engagement, and a vibrant atmosphere is essential.
So the next phase, so we've identified the project themes. Now we get into, again, we're narrowing that funnel. We're talking through the project categories and themes. So as you've noticed, there's a lot of data here, right? The potential project pool is far too large, exceeding the human and financial capital of our institutions. To deal with this, we needed a mechanism to narrow our focus. So a survey was developed that would ground our work and produce high priority project categories to further develop. The survey asked our peers what types of projects would best align with the data-driven themes. Again, it's vital to understand that there is a distinction between project categories and specific projects. It is also essential to continuously remind ourselves that data collection efforts produce themes that support the strategic directions. Themes that, if improved, would advance the institutional KPIs, yielding enhanced institutional outcomes. So again, we need to keep pulling ourselves along with what we're doing here. So the survey is intended to remove subjectivity from the prioritization process by ranking how well each project category aligns with the themes that we just went through. There needs to be a correlation, they need to be tied together. So the cohort's response, and we'll get into who will be surveyed here shortly. It will be aggregated to provide the facilities master planning team valuable insights into which project categories to explore in greater depth. Again, ensuring that the projects with the most significant impact are worked on first. So this was an important slide. Did I pull people along here? Yep.
This has happened or this is happening?
This has happened, one cohort to see in this survey, and I'll get into that here. How much time do we have left here? We're going to run this through this slide. Okay. So I want to talk through the initial cohort survey. So there's a lot to take in here, right? We couldn't just send the survey out across campus because nobody would understand what we were talking about, right? There's too much information. we chose to conduct the survey that was targeting the group that was most familiar with the data collection and the goals of the initiative. So that was the discovery and planning team, so about 150 people saw the survey. This cohort was intended to be one of several that would eventually provide feedback on the project categories. We had about 118 people that actually were on campus that could be surveyed, and we had about a 70 responded for a 60% response rate. And then our response was relatively, it was close. We had 52% of people spent their time at St. John's and 48% were at St. Ben's. So it was representative. I think we were well represented on both campuses. This is what you've all been waiting for.
Yeah, I was like, this is the moment.
We could have skipped to the front, right?
I'm not gonna even reveal them till the end. Many, yeah, absolutely.
When you're saying, you know, I can't remember the word that you used, but the most impactful categories, again, is this just numbers or was that a qualitative? So I just want to make
There was a lot of, all the respondents read the themes, they read what each theme was about, and then it was qualitatively, how well do these particular random project categories support these themes.
Okay.
So.
So many of the project needs across our institutions have historically been based on anecdotal conversations. For the first time, we are able to identify the highest impact project types that transcend the needs of any single department. These projects are grounded in strategy and, if executed correctly, will have the most significant impact on institutional KPIs.
Does that make sense though, that we follow, like if I ask Bob or Kelly, right, the most important project is going to be athletics, naturally. Margaret, if I talk to you, it's probably going to be something in campus ministries, and so on and so forth, right? Every department is going to have their area of highest need, but then how do we pull apart globally, what is going to rise to the top? So that's really what this survey is intended to do. Am I going through these?
No, you're good. You can just reveal all of them. So this is the first cohort's project category list that we feel aligns with strategic approach, ensuring a broader and more impactful outcome. So you can go ahead.
So when it comes to facilities master planning, this is about as scientific a process as what you can get. So these are the projects. Again, this is only one group. These aren't recommendations, right? This is just what the first group felt rose to the top based on the themes and where things were at. So student center, classroom enhancements were huge, right? We know that as faculty, there needs to be acoustic treatments, thermal comfort, all of these things. It's integral. Loss issues, right? Fitness and recreation spaces rose to the top. This was a big deal. This was on both campuses. These actually they are in order. But again, we're not saying, this was just from one survey group, right? So I don't want anybody running out saying we're building a student center, because we're not. Enhanced residential housing. We know that we have work to do on our first and third year housing really on both campuses. Outdoor recreation spaces, mental health and wellness spaces. That's huge, right? It radiated right through the data. Student gathering and study spaces was another top priority. Okay, I'm just going to rattle these off. We're getting close on time. Yep. So the facilities master planning team, 150 people were surveyed. That was the only cohort that weighed in. We are surveying the St. Ben St. John's leadership team, faculty leadership. You faculty, you guys have so many acronyms. I don't even know what you even call it. What is it?
Senate.
the Senate or the?
Well, there's going to be an opportunity for input.
Someone.
The other strategic initiative team leads are going to take the survey. We're going to have both the St. Ben's and St. John's Student Senate take the survey because we need more student involvement. And then both monastic councils are going to go through the survey and see what is going to mesh and get their view as well. So again, all of this is going to happen in the next, we're hoping that we get these surveys out in the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
When you say faculty leadership, I mean, like you said, there's like a lot of different acronyms. Has there been discussion about allowing like all department chairs to take the survey, because that would give like a high variety of different departments in different locations on the campuses, and it could be used as leadership.
Yeah, I like that. We should take a note. We would consult with Richard Ice on that as well, but I mean, that we're definitely going to take that back. That sounds like an amazing idea.
Thank you.
We should write that down, Briana. The final phase, I think this is actually our last slide, is the development of a business case. So in the context of facilities master planning, the development of our formal business case is essential. A well-crafted business case not only justifies the need for a particular project, but lays the comprehensive framework for evaluating its viability. So there's going to be a cost-benefit risk analysis done with every project that we identify. So this critical component of the business case, the cost-benefit risk analysis, enables the decision makers an opportunity to weigh the project's financial and non-financial benefits against its associated cost and potential risks. Funding strategy, not going to go into depth. If we don't have a funding strategy, there's not a project. So every project, business case, there's going to be a funding strategy, whatever that looks like. We are going to show alignment with the strategic directions. In our business case, if we can't show how, let's say, the student center, for example, but then we'll narrow it down into a specific project. If that project doesn't support and we can't draw a connection to strategic directions, it's not a project. Absolutely it's not. Data-driven support, so any project that we recommend is going to be pulled back in. We're going to pull data out of the discovery phase, and we need to reference that. It needs to be grounded in fact, so that we're not just pulling ideas out of thin air. We need to show the campus community how we're doing here. And then the opportunity cost of the project. This is an important one because for us to move forward with a project of project A, that means we're giving up something else. So we want to analyze what that opportunity cost is as well. Okay, we literally, it's like 2:45. But
I heard those, yeah.
sorry, I don't know, this maybe I bored everybody to death, I'm not sure, but is there any questions real quick?
So I would think you're having to think multi-year, so, I mean, you're not doing a 20 to 30 year out there, but is there a 10-year plan? Is that kind of what you're thinking? No?
No.
But how does, if
So
you're
we are
trying to cluster departments and align things, then
So the space management piece, yes, that's longer term, but when it comes to actual capital recommendations, what we're doing is, again, it's an agile and nimble process, right? That every year we're gonna go through a data collection effort, engaging other people because the data is going to change. The inputs are going to change. We're gonna go through, we're gonna generate themes, we're gonna see where we're at, and we're gonna produce a list of 10 project categories or 5 project categories. And then a team is going to drill down and we're going to try to develop a specific project that hits the need of those project categories. And that's going to be the project that's recommended to Brian, Kara, and Richard. Now let's say that there's 3 projects that rise to the top and we have the financial resources to do the first project. That doesn't mean that project number 2 is automatically the first to go next year. That doesn't mean that at all. Because when we go through the discovery process, that might sink down to number 5 because again, the uncertainty and the way the world's changing, we're going to go through this again. So this is a nimble process that every year there's engagement. The master plan never gets put down, never gets put to bed. We're always working on it.
And I point out back to talking about the traditional facilities master plans, if you open and start reading the master plans for St. Ben's and St. John's, we always start out strong, but then you start reading that the projects that were supposed to happen in sequence after that, they don't exist. And probably for good reason. They might not have been as important once they got to that point. But the idea is that we don't want to put this down. We want to be intentional with what we do and how we move forward.
And we really have been kind of reiterating to our team that we're really looking that 2 to 3 year planning horizon is because we need to plan. I mean, you can't even, a larger scale project, I mean, there's a year of planning that goes along with it and then another 18 months of delivery. So. I mean, we want to know where we're going in the next 2 to 3 years and then have an idea, 3 to 5. And after that, I mean, it's, we're really hyper-focused on, developing that project with the highest impact right now. Well, I hope you are all able to take something along with you. So, Thank you.
Thanks.